Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
And in the process of dying, strange things happen to the brain, right? So particularly with a stroke or something like that, where oxygen stops flowing to your brain, you have kind of visions and things that you might think are hallucinations, but that later seem like you are actually glimpsing the reality as opposed to the illusion that the brain creates. Images come into your brain and they're not organized in any way, and the brain organizes in a way that you can understand it. Well, when you're dying, all of that scrambles up and you actually are seeing something else. The other feeling I had was life, when I was having the stroke, was life draining out of me and my bones getting softer and softer and softer. And I can't really logically explain that, the feeling of bones softening up and dissolving. But for weeks and months afterwards, I could access that feeling of my bones dissolving, etc. It was a feeling of all your energy draining out of you and you're dying, literally.
What an absolutely horrifying experience to feel like your bones are softening and then to be able to recall that and feel it over again. That must be terrifying. Today we're going to check out some near-death experiences. We did cover this a couple months ago, but I found some new stuff and it was a request by my viewer, Evelyn Ivy 4630. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Also, if you have a suggestion for a topic, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to get it in an upcoming episode.
This is scary. This preacher spent his whole life preaching the gospel, doing the work of God, winds up dying, comes face to face with God, and what God tells him is going to shock you. Watch this.
Faith is dead. Your works are in vain. The life that you lived and offered to me as a life of Christian service is an abomination that I rejected in the Pharisee. What made you think I would accept it from a Laodicean type Christian? In fact, untold millions are living the same kind of life that you live, and they stand in danger of my everlasting wrath. Unquote the living God. I couldn't believe he was talking to me. I'm a preacher. You didn't do those works for me. You did them for a false God. I said, Lord, I worked for you. I called you Lord every day. Yes, you did, but you never made me Lord. What a difference. To call him Lord gives him a title. To make him Lord promotes him to ruler of life. But Lord, I was serving you. No, you wasn't. You served a false God. Then he named it Satan's number one selling false God. S-E-L-F. Instantly, I knew everything he said was true.
There's a lot of stories about people who have an undying faith, and that is changed when they have these near-death experiences. I know it's not actually a near-death experience. In a near-death experience, you don't actually die. These people are actually dying and then coming back. But they're having like a life-altering vision of some kind that either push them towards religion or away from religion. And I think it has something to do with the way that they've lived. Maybe subconsciously they've wanted to change, but they needed that push to change in one way or the other.
Do you believe that science has proved the existence of the afterlife based on like your research and expertise in this field, like over 40 years?
This convergence of evidence from all of these different types of experiences, it points very definitely to the survival of consciousness after death.
People have kind of universally reported that they die, they pass through a tunnel, and then they end up in basically another realm. It seems like from everything that I've studied with this, that people say that is more real than this world, and yes, that feels like their home.
They experience meeting non-material entities and being in places that feel like coming home. And a lot of near-death experiencers, again, people who didn't know each other, use that term, that they felt like they were home, where they belonged. For them, it can be very challenging to come back to earthly existence where there isn't unconditional love and there's disconnection from that source of such joy and bliss.
That must be one heck of a sucker punch. Like you feel this overwhelming joy, like going home, which is a wonderful feeling, and then suddenly not. I don't know that I can get on board with that being called scientific proof of an afterlife. I feel like it's more anecdotal. Yes, people have the same experience, but that's not necessarily scientific proof because people have a lot of different experiences and some of them are similar.
Faithita, I just wanted to get your story again from what happened when the doctors called the family in. And you said something yesterday that I cannot stop thinking about. what happened. It wasn't a dream, right? Like you felt like it was real. You really feel and believe it was real.
It is real. I was in this beautiful, the skies are just massive, white, floating. It's like a snow, but I can see, but it's so light. It's just so peaceful. And then I saw myself in the garden walking. This painting that I painted a while back, and I painted a garden. And that garden, that painting that I painted, that's where I was walking.
Like not a single worry?
No.
Is it like a peace that you've experienced on earth before?
No.
Yeah.
And so I know that God is keeping me there. Because I used to sing the song, He walks with me, He talks with me, and He calls me, I am His own.
This is another common theme that I'm seeing in these near-death experiences. People are seeing something that they are familiar with. Like she saw a painting that she painted and she was inside of it, which gave her comfort. And whether she's being given that comfort or she's creating that comfort inside of her brain, we may never know.
So then I was taken to life review. And basically what this is it's kind of like a movie of your whole life playing in front of your eyes. Every single moment of my entire life since being born was played in front of me. And it wasn't just like it was a movie being like watched. You could feel every single emotion you have ever felt in your entire life, like all at once.
Another common theme, your life just flashing before your eyes and feeling all of the emotions of your entire life. That would be so much to handle. No wonder she's emotional.
When you're fully awake, you will find yourself never again mourning the death of another, not even for a moment. You might mourn your loss, but not their death. In fact, you'll actually celebrate their death by celebrating both the moments of love and joy that they shared with you and the fact that they're now continuing to live in the free and wondrous expression of their evolutionary process. You would likewise neither fear nor mourn your own death, and for precisely the same reason. How's that possible? How can we not mourn the death of another? Because you wouldn't be sad for something that's not true, that's not even happening. When was the last time you were really sad for a long period of time about something that didn't happen? I'm really sad that I fell down the stairs. But you never fell down the stairs. I know, but I'm sad anyway. You wouldn't do that. So why would you be sad because somebody has celebrated their continuation day? You see, the whole point of this particular lesson is to embrace the notion that death does not exist. Now, this is not a new age philosophy. This is not some kind of a new thought principle. Do you realize that every major religion on the face of the earth teaches us that death does not exist?
I absolutely love that. It's not death. It's moving on to the next evolution in our life. Whether you're religious and you're going to heaven or whatever your religious belief is, or even you're passing on to the next realm or the next level of heightened consciousness, it's just going to the next step.
You had a near-death experience. What happened?
Yeah, I went into the hospital for just exploratory surgery. Once they opened me up, it became something more serious. There are three things that I remember from my experience. The first thing was that proverbial white light you always hear people talk about.
I always hear about the white light. Yeah.
But it's not just a white light. I've never experienced this white before or after this, but it was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The next thing I remember is the feeling of total peace, total calm, total serenity. And it goes beyond us humans being able to understand it. The third thing that happened was this old man showed up that I sensed, that I knew, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he told me it wasn't my time. I had to go back.
Wow.
Now you fast forward 2 years from that experience. My grandfather passed away. My brothers, my cousins, we were down in the basement just going through things. I mean, he collected everything. It was great. And we're going through things, and we found an old family photo album. And as we're flipping through the pages, we get to a page, and there's a picture of that old man. That old man was my great-great-grandfather. Wow.
What a trip that must have been to be in the basement and find that picture. And I'm assuming he never met the man because it's his great-great-grandfather, and to just be there and make that connection.
This lady died of a heroin overdose and went to hell. And so many people that have this experience say they remember their life on earth while they were in hell. Listen to what she says here.
On top of feeling stuck, my mind all of a sudden started replaying my life. Replaying every sin that I have done. You relive it constantly, and it's so loud. You relive the feelings, your feelings. And the one that stuck in my mind the most was my mama. That's why I call her my mom. She's my mama. And my mama she's a prayer warrior. And, she's been praying for me all these years to get out of this lifestyle and to get away from drugs. And it was like when I was in hell, I could hear her. Oh, Lisa, I wish you would listen and just come back to Jesus. And that's when all of a sudden I said, I wish I would have listened.
Imagine being in hell for 1 billion years wishing you would have listened.
Sometimes these near-death experiences aren't very pleasant at all. A lot of times they do incite a lifestyle change. And maybe it's something in her subconscious that was telling her, hey, things got to change. Or maybe it was, her God reaching out to her saying, hey, things got to change.
This is Pam Reynolds. She died on the operating table for an entire hour. And while she was gone, she had one of the most bizarre near-death experiences ever recorded. In 1991, she suffered from a severe brain aneurysm and underwent a surgery that was almost certain to kill her. While in surgery, she was clinically dead for 60 minutes in a state of stasis. This is when the body is drained of its blood, the heart is stopped, and the brain ceases all neural activity. While in this state, Dr. Robert Spetzler was able to successfully mend the brain aneurysm, and she regained consciousness shortly after. Upon her awakening, what she told doctors and nurses completely baffled them. It was impossible. She said she was above herself and the surgery as it happened. She was able to recall and quote what the doctors and nurses were saying and doing. While in the state, Pam also said that she recalled a presence of pure light beside her, but she didn't know who or what it was. Before the surgery, Pam said her final words and goodbyes to her loved ones in case she didn't make it. But during her experience, she said that she had no desire to re-enter her body. She knew her kids would be fine and she really did not want to come back. But something told her that she had to, and it simply wasn't her time. After this experience, Pam no longer feared death and scoffed at any mention of the matter. Her doctor, Robert F. Spitzler of the Barrow Neurological Institute, was absolutely in shock at the things that she told him, saying there was zero possibility of brain activity during this procedure. They had all sorts of equipment to monitor heart and brain activity. They would have noticed even a microscopic amount of neurons firing. Pam Reynolds would pass away at the age of 53 in 2010, nearly 20 years after her experience. She left behind an incredible story, one that, in my opinion, proves that there's life after death.
Wow, 60 minutes. That is a long time. And to be there, looking down on yourself while that is happening. What an incredible story.
The thought of your own death isn't horrifying enough. Consider that scientists are now saying that you actually will be aware that you're dead for up to 20 seconds. For several decades, scientists have been studying people who claim to have near-death experiences. Whether you believe them or not, they're studying them and finding out more about what actually happens in the brain as death takes over. Approximately 5% of dying patients and 10% of cardiac arrest patients describe having near-death experiences where they float above their bodies, they see a white light, they travel through a tunnel, they see lost loved ones. Some people say that this proves that there is an afterlife, and other people say that it proves that there's something neurological going on. So scientists have been studying rats. They stopped their hearts and checked their brain waves and found that their brain was flooded with a ton of electrical current. Some people think that that explains the white light and the tunnel and the falling and the sort of psychedelic experiences that happen to people, but there is no proof because obviously we don't know what a rat is seeing in their mind.
20 seconds seems like an eternity to realize that you've passed away. And if there is no white light or there is no life flashing before your eyes and you just know, holy crap, I'm dead. That would suck.
In 2019, a group of scientists partially restored the function of pig brains, 4 hours after their death. This is wild, and it creates a big ethical discussion, so please consider sharing your thoughts. So after death, it's thought that the brain rapidly deteriorates. With no oxygen or nutrients circulating, the cells die quickly. But Dr. Nanad Seston at Yale wanted to explore the limits of this. So his lab got pig brains from a local food processing facility, and 4 hours after their death, they flushed a fluid through the blood vessels that would protect and feed the cells. And as expected, this preserved the brain and kept the cells alive, but it also kept the brain sort of functioning like a live brain. For example, when they injected a molecule that causes an immune response, it caused an immune response. And when they stimulated the neurons, they fired action potentials. This means that under the right conditions, brains can be preserved and studied after death. And that's where the ethical discussion comes in. Is it ethical to revive someone's brain after they die and study it? On one hand, this would be super valuable for neuroscience. A major problem in neuroscience is that we have limited ways to measure the activity of live human brains. This is why a lot of research studies use animals, because we can really go in and measure what's going on inside the brain. But if we could revive and study human brains in these same ways, we could truly advance our understanding of conditions ranging from depression to Alzheimer's disease. On the other hand, there's a chance that if you revive the brain, you partially revive the person. Maybe they would be in there with a sort of awareness of being alive, but without any senses or a body to control. In the study, they did show that the pig brain had no network activity. There weren't brain areas talking to each other or activating spontaneously, which is what we would expect from a conscious living being.
I'm going to say it. Zombies. They're trying to make zombies.
What happens when I die?
You wake up into spirit again. Remember, you've never left. You just wake up from this dream. Kind of in the same way, I would imagine that if you have a dream at night when you're sleeping and it seems so real, and then you wake up and you go, as real as that was, this is who I am. So when you die, as real as this seemed, oh yeah, this is who I am. I've just had this amazing dream and I'm going to learn from it. But this is me. And every level is probably like that. Oh yeah, this is who I am. So I think it's a series of aha wake-ups into going into spirit and dying. You know, and certain things seem to happen similarly for a lot of people in terms of you kind of like, okay, I'm looking back at this life I had. Again, you're kind of reviewing the dream. You learn from it. You might meet other beings that have gone on before you that are happy to greet you, crossing over again or waking up. It's kind of like, hi, you've been asleep. Hi, welcome back. Good morning. And you have different possibilities. Time and space are way more flexible there. You can manifest things probably pretty quickly, almost instantaneously, and make them seem very physical and very real, even though they may not be. That seems to be typical patterns people report from things like near-death experiences. But, you know, it's, I think, kind of like waking up because this is a dream.
So all our loved ones, our soul groups, shall we say?
You can have soul families. Yeah, absolutely. Friends, families. Why not? You have them here. There's no reason not to have them there. And they probably start there. Since this is a dream, the soul families really are probably more there than they are here, even though they can choose to say, all right, I'll share this dream with you and I'll have an incarnation. But in reality, the spirit is not in the body. The body is in the spirit. Because again, all you're doing when you die is I'm expanding my focus. I'm taking the glasses off, taking the tunnel vision away. Oh yeah, look at how much more there is. Look at how much more I am. I remember now.
Bashar has a wonderful outlook on life and death and spirituality, and to say that this is a dream, it's mind-boggling to me to think that this is a dream, and how he said when you pass, you're actually waking up. And that's a crazy way to look at it. Like, so when you do have these near-death experiences, it's like a glimpse into what could be. And that's why a lot of times they're so pleasant.
There's a new VR experience in Melbourne that simulates the experience of death. It lasts for 10 minutes and gives you an out-of-body experience. Would you try this?
No, absolutely not, because it's not your actual experience. It's what they've decided you're going to feel and what they've decided you're going to see. It's not really what you would create for yourself or what you would have given to you from your God, if that's what you believe in. So I would definitely not do that. Let me know if you would. It sounds kind of crazy. On that note, I'm calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.